Welcome to Review Every Ship by CitizenCon 2024. The point is to give an update on every ship since some haven't had a video made about them in years, and others, the information is simply too spread out to be helpful in making decisions. Remember, digital ships aren't imaginary, digital ships are imagine-necessary. Every month we do a giveaway to give back to this wonderful community. This month's giveaway prize is going to be either an Anvil Terrapin, or if we hit 6,500 human subscribers before CitizenCon, I will give away an Anvil Carrack. So make sure you share the channel and tell your org mates to come and check us out. To enter the contest, make sure you subscribe to Billionaire Ninjas, leave a comment on at least one video, and like or dislike at least one video. Winners have 2 weeks to claim their prize. Members collectively have a 25% chance of winning just for being members. So if you're subscribed, consider hitting that join button, and if you're not subscribed, I appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. For the full giveaway details, make sure you visit our Billionaire Ninjas Discord or our social media at Ninjas Leap. Today we continue our trip through the RSI manufacturer, and the next ship is the RSI Orion. The Orion costs $650 standalone, $600 war bond, was $325 at concept. Cost in-game is unknown. The Orion is time limited for purchase. The ship is still in concept, so there are no rental prices either. If I had to guess the in-game price, I would assume it would be one of the most expensive ships to purchase inside the game. I would guess somewhere north of 85 million in-game currency. Roberts Space Industries' goal has always been to make the stars available to individual citizens. Now, with the RSI Orion mining platform, RSI is letting individuals take over a process formerly controlled by mega corporations. The Orion's features include high-grade turret-mounted tractor beam arrays, plenty of mineral storage, and a cabin designed by the team that brought you the Aurora and Constellation. The listed cargo capacity is only for the dedicated cargo room and does not account for the mined material capacity in the storage pods, which will be detailed later. The RSI Orion.
Orion? That's a pretty name.
What's this?
For measurements, the Orion has a length of 340 meters, a beam of 100 meters, a height of 100 meters. The ship is a size 6 capital class. However, I wouldn't be surprised if CIG announces another weight class called Super Capitals or something like that, because the Javelin, the Hull E, and the Orion seem to be in a size class all their own. For crew, the Orion has a minimum crew of 4 and maximum crew of 7. However, with this being the third largest ship in the entire game, I would say that will grow to something more like a minimum of 7 and a maximum of 14. But I could be going a little high on the minimum because CIG does like for you to be able to play the game with about 4 friends, so it could be more like 5 to 14 if I'm going based off the history of CIG. Also, a quick reminder, we are giving away a separate monthly giveaway for people who watch our live streams with 2 prizes, one for YouTube stream watchers and a better one for Twitch stream watchers. So make sure if you watch our live streams, you are dual streaming. Go check out the full details in our community post or on our social media. The Orion carries a total of 384 SCU in its cargo bay, but that does not include what is carried in the ore bags. However, considering this ship has grown to twice the size since that statistic was given, and on top of that, the Arastra has since been released, and on top of that, the SCU sizing has changed, I would say this is closer to 750 SCU of cargo. Now, that's a conservative estimate, but a more realistic estimate, if I'm being completely honest, is more like 1,500 SCU. The claim time for the Orion is unknown, but because it's a massive capital ship and it's going to be a massive moneymaker, I would expect its claim time to be somewhere around 2 hours, and even expedited, I would still expect it to be around 45 minutes, and the expedited fee is probably going to be somewhere in the hundreds of thousands. For speed, as of what we know now, the Orion has an unknown speed, But considering that this is the second largest industrial ship in the game, and industrial ships are notoriously slow, I say this will probably be the slowest moving ship in the entire game. Especially considering the Hull E, which is the largest industrial ship in the game, at least currently, is actually built to keep moving, and the Orion is built more to stay relatively in the same place. Maneuverability on the Orion is also unknown. Now, this is where I would have thought that the Orion would overperform for its size and class, but after watching a few videos about the Orion when it was being designed, it seems that this thing has a ton of tractor beams, and the designers have already stated it's more built to move things in front of it rather than turn to access anything that it needs to access. So it will use those gigantic tractor beams to move the rocks in front of it so it can munch it rather than turn to face the rock. So yeah, very low maneuverability. For weapons, the Orion comes stock with an undisclosed number of size 5 remote turrets, along with at least one more turret of a different size, and no missiles are scheduled as of yet. I would have to use the Arastra as my speculation guide here because it's kind of uncharted territory. I think we can safely assume the guns will be larger than the Arastra, and it will have more of them simply because of the size of the Orion. I would assume 4 of those size 5 turrets mounted on the port and starboard side of the Orion, 2 near the bow and 2 near the stern. Then maybe we get 2 of the rare size 6 turrets, 1 near the top of the ship at the bow and 1 on the bottom of the ship near the stern. I'm also going to assume all ships of this size have personal defense turrets, even though they haven't been mentioned, because it just makes sense for ships this large to be able to have some type of automatic missile defense. The hull HP for the Orion is unknown, but I would guess because of this being, again, the 3rd largest ship in the game, it will be a battle between the Javelin, the Hull E, and the Orion to see who will have the highest hull HP in the entire game, outside of ships that are, of course, not purchasable by us. My guess is that the Javelin will win that battle, and it'll be somewhere between 75 million and 100 million hull HP. And the Hull E and the Orion will essentially be fighting for second place. Whatever that number ends up being, expect it to be north of 30 million hull HP. Another note, obviously hull HP will be replaced with an armor system in the future, but until we know more details about that, we'll stick with calling it hull HP. But we do acknowledge that Maelstrom is coming, even though we've said that in multiple other videos. The shields on the Orion are unknown, but considering the size and role, I'm thinking these will be bespoke shields specific to the Orion. And of course, they will be capital size. And this would be quadrant type shields. The shield pool is probably going to be somewhere north of 1.6 million, and the regen rate somewhere north of 10,000 HP per second. For ship parts, the Orion has, according to the Matrix, 1 large radar, 2 medium computers, 2 large power plants, 2 large coolers, 1 large shield generator, 1 large fuel intake, 2 large fuel tanks, a large quantum drive, a large jump module, and 1 large quantum fuel tank. Now, the ship has grown to twice the size since those parts were listed. So, my guess is those parts will end up all being capital size, with the exception of maybe the computers and the radars, because sometimes those are medium or large parts, even though they're in capital ships. So you can have anywhere from 3 of those all the way up to 10. For hydrogen capacity, as far as in-class range, it should be close to the highest in the game. When it comes to quantum fuel, it should be a similar story. It should be close to the highest in the game. The quantum capability for this ship will definitely be interstellar, meaning you can travel anywhere in the system multiple times without refueling, and will also have fuel to make it to your next destination in a neighboring star system. This is the highest standard for long distance travel. Some special features and amenities for this ship. With the massive size of this ship, I would assume a lot of amenities, but let's start with what we know for certain. The ship, obviously being a mining ship, will have 2 size 4 primary cutting lasers and 3 size 3 tractor beams. This will also have a huge grinder out front that is meant to eat asteroids. But we still don't know how that functionality or gameplay will work. Outside of that, the rest is speculation, but a more precise laser in addition to the cutting laser makes sense after all. The other large mining ships all have 3 mining lasers. For interior amenities, I would assume separate rooms for each member of the crew with their own closets and maybe a few shared bathrooms, but a few rooms with their own bathroom, suit lockers, storage, weapon lockers, and a separate shared habitation area with a kitchen, a dining area, and a recreational area. I will also assume this has a medical bed inside of it just because of the sheer size of it. I also would love to see this be able to directly unload all of the ships below it, from the Arastra to the Mole to the Prospector, and maybe a very small landing pad to allow the Prospector to land. Also, this ship has mining drones. It has 4 of them, and we don't quite know how those will work. So it might be that instead of us getting some type of landing pad, we just have the drones flying around instead of needing to actually take the bags out. Maybe the drones might be able to empty those bags, or maybe the drones can do their own mining on their own. So we'll see how that works. Isn't speculation fun? My preferred loadout for the Orion will come later once the ship is made flyable. A quick shout out to my members, my First Ninjas, StarTouch and Rob, my Hokage, Old Weeb, my Joni Ninjas, Radium TX, Paling Tan, The Solid Exodus, Damon Danielson, Dark Wolf God, ETL and Spade, Sean Phillips, and Rage 1. Then my Tuning Ninjas, Raygun 972, Walk on Your Side, Scorpio King 3, Soul Galaxia, Meat Salad, Praetorian, Jay Solis, Waterfox Studios, and Sand Chimera. Of course, thank you to all my other members from every level who are all listed at the end of the video. As always, membership is never required, but always appreciated. You help make this YouTube dream even more possible, so thank all of you. Now it is time to rate this ship. A rating I rate from 1 to 10. My 1 is only by if you have a unique reason that is specific to you or because you like the looks of the ships. My 10 is if you have the money, these ships are almost guaranteed to be useful to you in the game. A 1 doesn't mean the ships are useless or ugly, and a 10 doesn't mean that the ships are perfect. Just remember, these are just our ratings. Please give us yours in the comments below, and we'll try to be fair. But let's be honest, we're all just a little bit biased, aren't we? Sometimes we're biased against a ship because we like another one better, and sometimes we're biased for a ship because it's our favorite. So let's all just do our best and try to at least be fair while we're being biased. My rating for this ship is a 9. Let's start with what I like about this ship. Well, I would just play every song about making a lot of money, but I would get copyright struck into oblivion. I am a firm believer that this will be the highest earning ship in Star Citizen. I don't think it's just me that believes that either. I've heard multiple other creators and viewers say things like, this is a flying cash register full of money that renews over time. Well, maybe they didn't say it exactly like that, but you get the point. But the primary thing that works for this is the primary thing that works for the Arastra, and that is it can completely fulfill its own game loop. It can mine the ore, refine the ore, and store the ore in SU format to be compatible with other ships hauling that refined ore. Obviously, it can do so much more and at a much higher capacity and rate than the Arastra, and is meant to take on heavier workloads. What I love about the Orion also is that it's going to be able to operate as a mining org base for people who primarily focus on mining. We have most of the capital ships that we need to operate as bases for their particular non-combat gameplay loop, and this is one of them. I'm arguing that the Reclaimer could have been a little bit bigger to fit that base narrative, but I digress. The Orion is an in-game ship, and if you know me, you know I love in-game ships. I am also a firm believer in the earn down economy in Star Citizen, where we buy bigger ships outside the game and earn the smaller ships inside the game. However, I know not everyone subscribes to that system. A lot of folks got this ship for just $300 $325. I got mine when it was $450, but I only paid $315 for it. So I still feel quite lucky because it's now valued by CIG at more than twice that amount. An absolute steal at that price. In fact, if you paid $325 or less for this ship, just based on value alone, I would say it's a 10. When it's all said and done, I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of the most expensive ships in Star Citizen. I'm thinking the final price will be right there next to the Idris at around $1,500. I think the possibility of saving $1,200 on this ship alone made it worth the CCU. So you might ask, what about if I spent $575 back in 2019 or I spent $650 now? Yep, it's still a deal if you ask me. That being said, play the CCU game and see if you could get it cheaper, probably around $400 if you play your cards right. Another thing that needs to be said is, even $300 is a lot to spend on a single video game, so make sure you're not going broke to buy these ships. Now my issues with this ship and how I would fix them. When I initially bought the Orion, I missed a very big part of what the Orion could not do, and it's the single biggest reason why the Orion is not a 10. It can't go down to planet side. Now, I get it. Not all ships are meant to go down to planet, and the Orion is obviously too big for it. But that severely limits the ability of this ship to be a do-everything mining ship, because it just won't have access to certain minerals that are only found planet-side. Speaking of which, on to my second reason why this is not a 10. In walks the Arastra, strutting its stuff around. Now don't get it twisted. The Orion is absolutely the better mining ship, and it's not even close. The Orion will mine more, mine faster, refine more, refine faster, and store more than the Arastra. Not to mention, it will have multiple capabilities that the Arastra will not have, such as mining what only a size 4 mining laser can mine, and being able to eat small asteroids. Lastly, another thing that the Arastra doesn't have is the 4 drones, so that's something the Arastra just can't touch. I had to say that before my comments were flooded with, "What do you mean the Arastra is better?" But let's be honest, I'll get those comments anyway. So, if I'm saying that, why even mention the Arastra? Well, besides the obvious fact of it being the largest mining platform that will be able to go planet-side, it's the versatility of the RSI Arastra that really makes it challenge the Orion. It can do everything required to be done in all 3 of the gaming loops that it can do. It can be used as a full-on cargo ship, a full-on mining ship, and a full-on refinery ship. It pulls its weight and shows its value even if you were to only use it for one of those things. The Orion can't do that because it can't go down to planet and deliver cargo, nor can it deliver its own ore to anything but a space station, nor can it go and seek out already mined ore to refine from other players because of its size and speed limitations. So unfortunately, for people who like the mining loop, you may have to get both to completely own the top of the mining field. So I hope you have a few hundred laying around if you're a completionist. I mean, even playing the CCU game and getting them as cheap as possible, you would still be looking at, let's say, an insanely good CCU game. I'm thinking $400 total for both ships, which is obscenely low. Most people would never be able to pull that off right now. And like I said earlier, just $300 is a lot to spend on a game, let alone $400. Or if I'm being a bit more realistic, the cheapest you'll probably get both at right now, even with the CCU game, is around $600 total. So why is this ship still a 9 with all my issues listed here? Well, a few reasons. First, cash is king. Second, greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Third, show me the money. Fourth, no dough, no show. Fifth, you are only as good to me as the money you make. Sixth, money is power. And lastly, but certainly not least, cash rules everything around me. Cream get the money, dollar bill, y'all. If that all sounded like gibberish to you, that's okay. I'm American. I consume far too many movies and music videos. But essentially, I'm saying pure amounts of money that this thing will be able to make will keep it afloat all on its own, atop a literal ocean of money. But if dollar signs aren't enough for you, Try this on. Who says you need to go to other people to get anything? To give anything? To sell anything? Why not have them come to you? I can imagine a lot of people not wanting to pay this much money for a mining ship, both in-game and outside of the game. 85 million might be a massive price to pay and too steep for a lot of people who don't want to put that much work in for the specific mining ship. People will come to you for the rocks they can't break, for the refined materials they can't find, and to drop off the things they can't refine. Why orbit the sun when you can become a star? So who is this ship for? This is for the person with money on the mind, the industrial powerhouses, for the magnates of material munching, and for the titans of industry. It's not for the people who just want to hop in and have a good time, even though you could. I'm not saying you can't. It's more for the people who want to own a small island on their favorite planet and want to put in some serious work. That being said, it's also not for the person who wants to primarily fly around looking for materials to munch and looking for planets to dig into. It's for the person who enjoys being in space more than being planetside. And most importantly, it's for people who like gigantic ships, because this ship is the third biggest ship in the game. I think the Orion will be more based on how much low-grade material you can munch, and that will be where you make your money. Quantity, not quality. Both are possible, but the former is most probable. I imagine using the Orion exactly as intended, to munch asteroids without putting too much effort into thinking about what I'm mining, and more so just putting in the hours to get it all refined into its final product to be sold, and also used as materials for my base building and outpost building aspirations. I know you're here for our rating, but if you really want a ship, go buy it. We won't stop you. Or even better, all ships can be earned in-game once the game releases, and some you can purchase in-game right now. These are just our ratings, but when you spend, it's your money. My opinion, you don't really need both the Arastra and the Orion, but it's mining perfection if you have both. But if this ship is just too big for you, I understand. However, that doesn't change the fact that this is one for the fleet. And even if you don't need one, that CCU might be worth a few dollars down the road. All right, that is it for this one. Shout out to the members. Thanks for spending your time with us. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.